So 2022 has already given us some fantastic games such as Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, Dying Light 2, Sifu, and there are still more to come such as Hogwarts Legacy, God of War Ragnarok, and of course the one I'm most excited for, Starfield. Now I haven't actually played any of these yet, and that's because I'm a fraud. It's as simple as that. No, basically I just haven't had the budget to buy multiple $60 games, and so instead I've been playing a lot of older games that I either had laying around, but never got around to playing, or ones that I picked up on sales. Essentially, I love playing video games, but in recent years I've really been slacking since I've started uni, and I have this channel, and I really only used to play multiplayer games with my friends like Minecraft, Phasmophobia, Deep Rock Galactic, Warzone, and I only managed like 1 to 2 single player games a year, which I have to admit, those are my favorites. However, so far this year, I've been going back to play older games that I never got around to playing, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. Gaming for me is such a perfect way to sit back, relax, and forget about all my troubles, which has been especially important this year as a lot of personal issues have come up in my life. But since I'm going to be leaving you lot without much juicy content all month while I'll be out fucking around, I thought why not briefly talk about and then rank all the games that I've played so far in 2022. I'll probably do another one of these at the end of the year when I've hopefully played some of the newer ones, but yeah. Think of this as a midterm, or if that word gives you nightmares, then how about we call this the 2022 Video Game Blue Balls Edition? I think that sounds fair. And now that all the casuals have clicked off this video because I didn't get to the point within the first 10 seconds, let's just get into the video. So the first game that I played in this new gaming enlightenment was Batman Arkham City. I'd never played these games before and I bought them on Steam for hella cheap. I tried playing Arkham Asylum, but it just would not work on my computer, so I watched the summary of the story and then played Arkham City. And boy did I have a good time, at least later on. It kind of annoyed me in the beginning, but in a good way. Most of my annoyance came from the difficulty in the combat, especially since I was playing on my PC, and I've never played a third-person brawling game like this with mouse and keyboard. I usually play with a controller, so I felt like a bit of a novice. The game also just confused me a bit, but that's to be expected. Now the combat quickly became very fun, although the many gadgets didn't really do anything special for me. Perhaps because I had just replayed Spider-Man PS4 and naturally was getting tired of using gadgets in battle all the time. But overall the combat was very fun, the story was also thrilling, and there were some moments that I won't soon forget. I think my favorite aspect of the game was actually the boss battles. Probably the best boss battles I've ever played in a video game. They were unique, they were interesting, and they always left me excited. And I think most of my criticisms of the game come from either the technical aspects of playing with mouse and keyboard, and my PC not being that powerful so I had some frame rate issues. But obviously that's not the game's problem. That's my problem. But while the story was overall really fun, I wasn't as interested in it, but overall I really liked it. I think my enjoyment of the game definitely was affected by not playing the first one, but I think this game is definitely a 7.5 out of 10 for me. It probably deserves higher, but that's just how I feel, and I'm excited to play Arkham Knight. So The Last of Us is a game that I've wanted to play for a while, mainly because of the controversy surrounding the second game. You know me, controversy gives me a hard on. I knew I was going to like this game, but I didn't think I'd love it as much as I did. Throughout my life, I've mainly played either multiplayer games or co-op games or open world single player games. I've rarely dabbled in linear games, and especially not one to the same extent as this one. However, I loved every moment of it. The story just gripped me. It asked to take me for a ride, and I just sat there and let it sweep me away. The dynamic between Joel and Ellie was incredible, and I was emotionally invested in everything that happened. I don't know if you've noticed yet, but I haven't even mentioned the gameplay yet, because the characters, the plot, the writing was all just so gripping. However, the game itself is not bad at all. I played the remastered version, so the graphics looked great. The animations definitely held up really well. Gameplay was quite generic overall, but being my first game in this genre, I didn't really care because it felt new and fresh to me. It was exciting, it was stressful at times, and I loved the mix between scavenging for bullets and resources, playing it smart and taking out enemies stealthily, and then eventually going into an all-out warfare and wasting all my ammo and then having to go back to scavenging. Perhaps this game had such an impact on me because of the fact that I'm new to this genre, but no game has had me this invested in its story ever. At least not that I can remember. And to that, I can only give it my highest praise. It's perhaps lacking in some aspects for me to give it a perfect score overall, but The Last of Us absolutely deserves a 9 out of 10 rating. It could easily move up to a 10 out of 10, but for now, I'll keep it at a respectable 9 out of 10. Now, Assassin's Creed Black Flag is the first time I've played an older Assassin's Creed game since like 2012, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was fun to just be a pirate and sail around fighting and plundering. However, the open world and the exploration wasn't as exciting to me than the story was. As often as I could, I was rushing to continue with the story, and I pretty much only stopped to do side content when I needed to improve my ship, or if I was feeling guilty about neglecting the rest of the game. Now, that's not to say that I didn't really enjoy the open world and what it had to offer. I just wasn't that interested in it the same way that I get invested in, say, an Elder Scrolls game. I could just explore and discover for ages in Skyrim. However, the gameplay in Black Flag at least never left me bored. The story, although confusing and random at times, got me hooked and I was invested. The music was fantastic and had me singing along to the shanties. The ship combat was thrilling, but the melee combat was shallow and quite boring to use. Overall, I'll give the game a 7 out of 10. It was a lot of fun, but it's just being compared to these other wonderful games. But Black Flag still stands on its own and shines like a bright golden tooth. So after Black Flag, I played God of War. Now, I've never played a God of War game before, but like with Arkham Asylum, I watched a bunch of videos summarizing the story up until this point. Now, I'm from Denmark, so naturally when there's outside media about Norse mythology, I get really excited. I mean, I grew up on a lot of these stories about the gods, not in like a religious way, more that a lot of kids shows incorporated this mythology into them. And so naturally I loved this game. The world was super interesting, and the lore was just a blast to learn about. The story was very captivating. I always love a story about a parental figure and their child. It's part of why I love The Last of Us so much. But yeah, the story was fantastic and well acted. But the combat, oh baby, the combat was a lot of fun. It was challenging, but I like challenging to a certain extent. I like being pushed while still having fun. Not combat that makes me cry like Souls games. Fuck you, Elden Ring. But this combat system was varied, it was brutal, and it made me feel powerful. The combat just kept getting better the more I upgraded Kratos, Atreus, and my weapons. The boss fights were also quite fun, especially the first one with the stranger. Sensorily, it was just really engaging to play. However, there was some stuff that became repetitive sometimes in the gameplay, which definitely did get more noticeable towards the end. However, overall, I loved this game. It really did it for me. 8 out of 10. Great fun. Now, the last new game I've played this year so far is Bioshock. I remember my dad playing this game back in 2007, and me just watching, being scared of the little sisters. However, I didn't remember anything about the game other than the big daddies and the vibe of it. So I pretty much went in blind, and I had a great time. It was just so much fun. The atmosphere was incredible. The gameplay was fun, although quite outdated. Obviously, the story was also unique and the setting of Rapture really piqued my interest. Now, a little spoiler talk ahead, so be careful, but basically, I knew that there would be an amazing twist in the game, so naturally my mind started to think of every possibility, hyping up that twist to such a height that naturally the twist didn't quite live up to it. However, that's not the game's fault, that's again my own fault. But yeah, overall, the game was incredible. I really enjoyed it. Easy 8 out of 10 for me. There we go. That's it for me. Those are the games that I've been playing in 2022. But first, I want to hear your opinions on the games that I've played. Have you played them before? And if so, what do you think about them? But also let me know which games you've been playing and whether or not you have any recommendations. I'm thinking of playing The Last of Us 2 and maybe Red Dead Redemption 2 over the summer, but there's still room for some recommendations, so let me know down below. I'd also like to thank my awesome Patreons, including our turf captain Ben Joseph. You can find the link to my Patreon down in the description, but other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe and peace out.